Fellow Falcoholics, what is up? Welcome to the Falcoholic Live's Falcons vs. Cowboys Week 9 postgame show. I'm your host, Kevin, not at Falcoholic Kevin, joined by my co-host. He is Alan Strk at Alan Strk. Very easy to remember. Love those handles. Alan, another Falcons victory. It's starting to become a trend around here. This team's winning football games. It feels, I think this game to me was kind of the turning point where I'm like, okay, this team, like, they're not beautiful every week. It's not perfect. It's not, dominant all the time, but they just find ways. They know how to win this type of game, and they're really good at playing this type of game. So I'm happy to see that. How are you feeling on this Sunday afternoon?
It was relatively smooth outside of anything, but I think what could be most encouraged about, like, those first three quarters, that's how you beat up a bad team. Like, the Cowboys are a bad team. You could talk about the star power, them being injured. They're so poorly coached. You saw the pre-snap penalties. They're a mess. But I just love the conviction that the Falcons play with, and seeing two players I think last year were huge parts of the defensive success. I know Grady Jarrett was out for half the year last year, but seeing Grady Jarrett and Caden Ellis on their A games, it raises the defense's floor, because we know how bad this defense can get. But if you're going to get that performance level from Grady Jarrett, and especially Caden Ellis, who has definitely been underwhelming this year, he was everywhere, and they really unleashed him on those blitzes. So to see those two really getting after it was super encouraging to see, because I think those are the two players. There are a lot of players that need to step up on the defensive front, but those two are kind of like their leaders. So that's probably the biggest takeaway from this game, besides the fact that this offense still was relatively efficient. Outside of Dallas getting them on a few blitzes and maybe the run blocking not being as good as it should have been, I still think it was super impressive how the offense remained efficient without Drake London and Kirk Cousins. Once again, just the composure, the command of the offense. He's been fantastic.
Yeah, Drake London's so lethal. Like, when the Falcons can protect him, and we know what happens if he gets rushers like in his face. He knows
he looked jittery at times.
Yeah,
Zimmer spooked him.
Yeah, it's like, I think Kirk Cousins knows who he is, and like knows that I think that, like, people got mad about him taking the sack on that play, on that one play, and I was like, no, that's what he should do. Like, he almost fumbled previously. Like, just go down. It's okay. You're not gonna scramble, like, escape, and this is not that type of situation where you have to try to make something happen. I think he made the right call there. And, like, look, Kirk knows his limitations. He knows he's rarely going to be able to escape the pocket if something happens. But he didn't really have to throw it away in this game, which is nice. But, like, he's good at throwing the ball away, and he's good at just taking his time and trying to find someone. And he knows, like, there's so much trust, I think, in Zach Robinson's concepts, that he knows, like, if he can just sit there long enough, if he can just hold that ball, someone's coming open at some point. Like, he really trusts those guys. Even after Drake London left the game after that first touchdown, which is a shame, and that's definitely something we're going to have to check in on. The passing offense didn't really stop. I mean, losing London hurts in several ways, and obviously the Falcons are going to have to probably adjust what they do a bit if he has to miss any time. But, like, they have, Kadero Hodge is a good stand-in. He had, a good game, I think. Obviously, he's not the same receiving threat, but he does block up pretty well. And
I thought he made a huge impact as a blocker.
Yeah,
I saw that touchdown with Algier in particular.
Yeah, and the offense as a whole just hummed. The defense had one of their best games, I would say. I mean, obviously, you probably get a little bit sweatier at the end if Dak is in the game with CD healthy, but they weren't. And the Falcons went full conservative, and they gave up a touchdown, but it's like, They did actually allow exactly the right amount of time for that game to end if they receive the ball again, which that's a pretty good bet. You take that most times. Obviously, you'd like some things to be better, like for Justin Simmons to just, like, not blitz too early. He just gave that blitz away entirely. That was unfortunate. He he was really close to timing it up perfectly, but unfortunately, that's what happens when you blitz sometimes. But I don't have too many complaints. I think the Falcons were in control the entire time, and you love to see it. And before we dive in more, because I know you're itching to get some takes off, before I forget to get to our ad read, let me get to that real quick. Folks, BetOnline is the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for online betting. From the earliest odds to in-game live betting, BetOnline provides you with all the action and the ability to watch the games as they happen. They've got the largest selection of odds on everything from football, NBA, NHL to entertainment, and for 2 days only, political props. If you're, like, really itching to get in on this political betting in this election, which I do not recommend because you know why. I've got on a rant about this. Yeah. I mean, look,
last Sunday, last Sunday, thank God.
This is the last one, but this is your last chance if you want to get in on
brutal,
that.
Man. Why couldn't the Falcons get primetime games in late October?
Right, exactly. But guys, whatever you're gonna bet on, hopefully not political props, but I'm not gonna stop you. I'm not gonna judge you. Okay, a little bit of judgment maybe, but head to BetOnline today to get in on the action with America's most trusted site for online wagering. Make sure when you sign up, use our promo code BELIEVE, that's BLEAV, to get access to the latest promotions. BetOnline, the game starts here. All right. Well, yeah, do you want to start on the offense? Because they were, for much of this game, they were absolutely humming. They were doing great stuff.
I want to talk about offense, but I just want to talk about general reaction because one of the biggest moments of the season happened. The Atlanta Falcons sacked the quarterback.
Twice in a row.
Again on the next play. When that happened, did you just had to rewind? What was your reaction to not just one sack, but 2 sacks?
I was flabbergasted. Yeah, and I feel like they were really close to more. They just, again, this team really has trouble finishing, and I think a lot of it, not to criticize. I'm not going to do much of that today, but these guys got to maintain their lane discipline. They crash into each other all the time. I think everyone's so desperate to get a sack because I'm sure they know they only have 6 sacks. They just give up all discipline and just charge at the quarterback. And that works in college. It doesn't work in the NFL. These quarterbacks are too smart. They'll just get out, especially the mobile ones like Dak, and they'll just get out of the pocket and run away from you. And these guys got to learn to be a little bit more patient. Just going full out to the quarterback isn't necessarily how you get the sack. And with Judon in particular, he's made his game off of that. The really patient, clean up sacks, just playing it really smart. And even he's, kind of pressing right now. But love the 2 sacks. They definitely, look, you can't criticize them for not trying anything different in this one. They tried Damone Harris as an interior pass rusher. They had D'Angelo Malone taking snaps outside. They're trying anyone except Brandon Dorless. They will try. Brandon Dorless must have peed in somebody's Cheerios because this man can't get activated even with Rukaroro out for the foreseeable future. So, not great, obviously, for Dorless. But look, the guys that are out there, they're not really they're getting pressure now. So they're generating pressure. That's not the issue now. The issue is they can't finish. But they got 2 sacks today. And ultimately, up until
3 actually.
3. That's right. That's right. Yes, they did correct.
Greg Olsen, fantastic game.
Oh gosh, can we get Greg Olsen every week? Yeah, he's so good, and he doesn't hate on the Falcons at all, despite being a former division rival. But I think that kind of speaks to the Panthers-Falcons rivalry. It's just not that heated. It's just not everyone just hates the Saints. That's kind of how it is.
Yeah.
But
yeah, say, only another Fox commentator can understand how to be objective while calling Falcon games, but nevertheless, yeah, those are cool moments, and it was nice to see finally a stunt lead to a sack. The second one, they targeted Terrence Steele. It was actually Judon and Jarrett, and it was a great moment for Jarrett because I think he has flashed the last month. We've seen him, particularly against the run, get those classic great plays where he splits the gaps, but he was everywhere. Him and Kane also, I really think if they're going to play back to a level where we expect them, this defense might not be as hopeless as they've been at times. So that was probably just a small bit. It's the fact they got 2 sacks. I'll be at 1. I think Dak missed Jalen Tolbert on a wheel route, which
he was wide open.
It's hilarious looking back on it. But nevertheless, it's still bad. I thought Ebiketie did show some flashes, but we talked about before, and we're gonna get to offense too. But I just wanted to highlight this because it's just hilarious. When the Falcons got a sack, it just felt even Greg Olsen was making a couple of remarks yes, folks, the Atlanta Falcons are just at the quarterback. But you make a great point of just the discipline because you look at. So the Cowboys didn't have a run more than 15 yards going into this game. That's how pitiful their running game is. And on that Dak scramble, you saw Caden Ellis, who is very efficient as a blitzer, but he was crashing in the B gap. And then I think it was Grady and maybe Judon were also going to the same gap. And they all just collapsed on top of each other. Dak scrambles for 21 yards. It's just those are the type of moments. And then the touchdown, which is going to go down as one of the most bizarre plays. You just see everyone crashing down again. And then Zach Harrison has a clean lane to finally, in his clean. If he pursues Dak you expect the player would, but he stumbles and then Dak gets the throw off. It's just man, this team really needs finisher. And these next 2 days, I don't know about you, but we're gonna be checking news updates.
They're gonna trade for pass rusher. I have no doubt. I don't know which one it's gonna be. I feel like if they could honestly get Calais and Ojolari, I think that would actually be really smart. because I don't think either one's going to be terribly costly. The Dolphins lost, like they're probably done. You know, I would love to get Calais
He's
back.
such a feel-good factor too. It's just
Yes,
like, dude, you know how awesome he was. Let's say, and
he's
dude,
not
I
going to be
think he was
expensive.
definitely helped the run
Oh
defense.
yeah, he'd be huge. He's still good. You know, that Dolphins team's just dead in the water, unfortunately. But you know, losing Tua when they did, and then just the schedule, like there's no real path to them winning the division now. And the wild card in the AFC is going to be a nightmare. So they might move on from Calais. I would love to get Calais back, no doubt. You would think he would be happy to come back too. I mean, this team's rolling. He seemed to love the city. And then Aziz, like I think Calais is obviously a rental. I think Aziz is more of a maybe this is a guy you re-sign. You know, like at this point, it doesn't look like they're going to re-sign Judon. That was kind of a question going into the season. But I think at this point, like you need, like the draft is not going to be that helpful for this team. Let's be honest. Like, I'm not. That's not a slight on Terry Fontenot, although he hasn't done necessarily a great job outside of the first round. They only have like 3-4 picks at this point, so I do think they're going to trade down. I think they kind of have to. But like, don't expect like huge reinforcements coming in outside of like pick 1 or pick 2. They can't just rely on like one edge rusher, even if it's their 20th or 25th or whatever pick, to come in and save this pass rush. Like so trading something like a 4th rounder for Ojulari, who's starting maybe to come into his own, maybe you can re-sign him and add this 1st round pick, and maybe now you're starting to build this pass rush up. I think they can't just hope the draft can fix this problem, because that's not going to work. And if you have to go out and try to sign someone straight up in free agency, it's going to be so expensive. So,
and look, the organization has been very urgent in their approach. You look at the free agent moves and even the moves they made in August. Like they're clearly in win now mode, and now you don't want to jeopardize your future. Like I'm not saying go trade a 2nd round pick for Ojulari, that'd be absurd, but to show urgency these next few days, because this team should be a 3 seed if anything, because they're gonna rack up wins. Like I don't, just based on how chaotic the NFC West is and the Falcons' favorable schedule, like they should probably be a 3 seed, and you're probably gonna play one of the whoever's the out of those 3 NFC North teams, 3 really good NFC North teams. You're probably gonna play the worst out of the 3 there, but still, it's like, look, we're not expecting this team to win a Super Bowl. That's we're being logical here, but you have an opportunity to do something special for the city, like hosting a playoff game, winning a playoff game. That would be massive. So, and the offense is here. I'm at a level with this offense that I think they could play against anybody. So, and if you have an offense operate this efficiently, look, I don't know if they could do it for 4 games. That's asking for a lot in January, February, but why not go for it? So that's why I think they should really push for a trade, especially with organizations that are definitely sellers. The Giants are sellers, especially given the fact that they've invested in Burns and Thibodeau. So those 2, and then we talk about the Dolphins as well. So I'm with either Ojulari, Campbell, or both. Let's do it.
Yeah. Well, Adnan, welcome in. We were talking about the defense of this game and talking about, this team probably going to add pieces now that they're 6-3. What did you think about the defense and the possibility of the team making a trade here in the next couple days?
I liked what I saw from the defense today. Obviously, the last drive notwithstanding, but I don't even really blame the players on that one, because they were playing really, really like prevent type defense, really soft coverage, soft zone, and sort of let Cooper Rush dink and dunk them down the field. I don't like that defense in general, but I understand it. You're keeping them in front of you. You're tackling them in bounds. The clock is rolling off. It's burning down. But outside of that first drive, which didn't even result in a touchdown, it was, man, that was the best defensive performance of the season, I would say. Like the most complete defensive performance of the season. They had 3 sacks in that game, which that's half as many as they had coming into this week. 2 of them back to back. Unfortunately, they did lose Grady Jarrett, but apparently that's precautionary. So that was very relieving to hear. But yeah, it was great job by the defense. I feel like they really sort of answered the call a little bit after all of the criticism, after the regional buzz of how bad they are and how bad the pass rush has been, deservedly so. But I don't think that they should sort of rest on their laurels here, because Dallas is a very, very one-dimensional offense. I'm not going to give them the Dak Prescott excuse, because they were Dak got hurt, but they were absolutely shutting Dak Prescott down as well. But Dallas also just could not keep getting out of their own way with some of those mistakes too. It felt like watching, one of those old Falcons games from years past where you're like, my God, it was just one critical error after the next. I almost screamed for them when they had that 12 men in the huddle on that 4th and short, because that was just a straight unacceptable penalty. But yeah, it's I tip my cap to the defense today. I feel like they answered the call. They did very well, but I still don't think that what they have right now is enough for a playoff setting. So yeah, I wouldn't be against going out there, maybe not this year's pick, but dipping into a future pick to try and get some reinforcements in here on the pass rush.
Yeah. No, I agree with that. I think we'll see some moves. I don't know exactly who they're going to get. It's going to have to be relatively cheap ones, because they're not going to get rid of that 1st or 2nd round pick. They're going to hold those. I think they're going to try to. I mean, my guess right now is they're trading down. I mean, from their probably picking the 20s somewhere to try to get another day 2 pick out of it. And that would go a long way to helping them out. But we'll have to see what develops there. This team has not traded down very often. They did one time under this regime, so that's more than they did previously. But yeah, it's.
I feel like it also sort of depends on their equation when it comes to the comp picks too. Like if they think that they'll be able to have some comp picks are going to be years down the line, but maybe I don't think that they'll trade any picks this year because they're already down a 3rd, down a 5th. I don't think they'll want to give that 4th rounder away. But maybe a future draft, maybe one a couple years from now, where possibly that they brace having one of those comp picks, but that will also mean not really making any serious moves in free agency this year as well, because the way that it works is you get a comp pick for a guy, you sign another dude, you're going to sacrifice that comp pick. But given the salary cap constraints moving forward, I think they will be players when it comes to comp picks.
Yeah, more than likely they will. We'll have to see how it shakes out. It also depends on how aggressive they want to get with their own free agents. Obviously this is more of an offseason discussion, but remember, if teams cut a player for salary cap reasons or whatever, that player does not count in the salary cap or in the comp pick formula. So the Falcons could be looking to pounce on guys that get cut for cap reasons, because again, that doesn't affect the comp pick formula. So this is going to be a fun offseason. I guarantee that, because there's not a lot of draft picks to play with. This team's going to have to get creative. The cap's going to be tight. They do have some easy moves they can make to clear space. By easy, I mean like terrible, gut-wrenching, like cut decisions, like Grady Jarrett, for example. So, that's easy, right? So it's going to be a tough offseason in terms of that, but definitely this team's not in a position that is problematic. It just has to be played smart. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, I mean, ultimately, I agree. Like, I think the defense as a whole had one of their best games. I mean, I feel so bad for Nate Landman. Like, he's so clearly just not there, like health-wise. But he's gotten it out. He can't really move side to side very well or backwards. But he's trying. So I don't blame Nate Landman, for the record. I blame the Falcons for just like still putting him out there and trying to make him cover Dak or cover running backs in the flat. Like, he can go like press somebody or go bump them, but like after that, I mean, it's just so.
The missed tackle on Ferguson was
that he just
really
can't move. He just can't move, and like
it was very Paul Warlow-esque. I was just like, oh.
It's just
hey, that's friend of the show, Paul Warlow. We don't speak bad about Paul.
Yes, friend of the show, Paul Warlow.
When did you have Paul Warlow on?
Well, we had Paul Warlow on like a year or two ago.
Yeah. Shout out to Paul. Yeah, we love Paul. Paul understands. Like, there's slander directed at him. He understands. Still a Falcons legend, though. No question. But Paul had some bad plays. He knows.
This guy, he made his way. I just said, sorry.
No,
folks.
had a good
I'm
career.
not trying to hurt the brand here.
No.
Hey, this is a message to all former and current Falcons. Come on the show. We're going to prop you up. If you want some media love, come on here, and we will never let anyone speak bad about you.
Yeah. So, this Falcons defense, like, otherwise, I thought they played this pretty well. Like, they were really, like, they were playing sort of off coverage on the other receivers, but against CeeDee, they were having the corner on CeeDee Lamb play like more press, like closer to the line. I thought that worked really well to kind of get him off his spot, and especially once it was clear he was hurt. They were just trying to put hands on him, and I think it worked. So good job there. I think it was malpractice for the Cowboys to keep inserting him in the game. That man was injured, and
I think
it's
he
not.
was inserting himself.
I'm sure, but you got to tell him no, man.
Yeah,
This
at
is
some
your
point,
like.
yeah.
You got to tell this man no. We're down 2 scores. CD, sit down, please. Like, my God, man. I mean, that was. I just don't like. I think that like the coaching staff has to stop that.
You
Like,
gotta
yeah,
save
I
him
know
from
CD
himself.
wants to play. He's on my fantasy team, so like this is me being especially real. Like, sit him down, man. Like, like, yeah, I want CD to play. We all know he's their best player, but just like you
And
can't.
what you're saying, I think you're gonna say
Yeah.
something that kind of alluded to saving him. You gotta save the player, right?
Yeah, you have to save him from himself. Like every player, these are all competitors, man. Like none of these guys, especially the guys at the top of their positions, none of them are here because they're the type of person to take themselves out of the game. Yeah, Anthony Richardson notwithstanding. But he's of course he's going to want to play every game, and that's a testament to his toughness. That's a testament to who he is as a football player. But yeah, man, like you saw him like really tending to that shoulder after that play. Great play by D. Alford, by the way, on that play where he I don't know if he batted the ball away from CD's hands, but he definitely put some pressure on to make it so that CD couldn't catch that touchdown. And then like CD came up, and I was thinking, I'm like, man, this could be a multi-week injury the way that he's like looking out there. But yeah, he put himself back in. But yeah, the Cowboys, that's kind of malpractice there. Like you have to sit him down and be like, hey, like your week is done. Maybe if they score and recover the onside kick, then possibly like you can have a conversation. But the reward is not worth the risk there.
Yeah. I mean, I get it. Like their season's really on the brink, especially in this division where they've got 2 teams with winning records that are both playing really well. Shout out to the Commanders. Shout out to Terry McLaurin on my dynasty team also. Great work, buddy. But
Dan Quinn.
Yeah, Dan Quinn shout out too, man. Like Falcons fans like seem to be upset. Like not all. I'm not speaking for everyone. Okay, relax. But like there's definitely a section of Falcons fans that like have this animosity towards Quinn. It's like I get it. Like we blew the Super Bowl. He couldn't get us back there, but like how could you not like Dan Quinn? This is like the nicest man. Like he's one of the nicest people I've ever met. Like yeah, it didn't work out, but like I never questioned Dan Quinn's effort or like want to or any of that stuff. It just didn't work. He seemed to kind of just run out of guys in terms of who he could hire to fix the problems, and
Man, 2016 speaks for itself.
It does.
2016 was the greatest year of franchise history. That alone makes Dan Quinn a legend. And look, if you don't like him, I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah, he needs good coordinators, no doubt. Like he's not capable of doing it himself.
He knows how to pick good coordinators too.
The first time around, the first time around. But when that guy leaves, that's when the problems start. I mean, other than him firing Steve Sarkisian, which was way preliminary, and also way before they secured the hire of Gary Kubiak that they were trying to do. So that was really dumb. Maybe that was more Dimitroff than anything. I don't know. But, Thomas Dimitroff, not a fan of the show. Yeah. But
will another team attempt a fake punt on the Falcons this year?
I hope so. I hope so.
If you're going to go for it, just go for it. Like, it was like 4th and 2, just line up and go for it. Like, I mean, that was the play. After they failed that one, I was like, yeah, I think this game, not that this game is over, but I was like, yeah, we got him. Because that's one of those plays where it just reeked of desperation.
Yeah.
It completely reeked of desperation. And then, you obviously give the ball back to the Falcons in very plus territory. Atlanta goes downfield, punches it in, and then from there, Dallas never really could recover. But yeah, it's like, McCarthy, he shot himself in the foot the same way that they were shooting themselves in the foot all game. That 4th and short as well, where they just, instead of running it, they decide to do an end around, which is always a risk. Like it's just some of that gimmicky stuff, man. Like just in those crucial high leverage moments, like what are you doing? Just play ABC football. But the Falcons were on the positive end of it today.
Yeah.
I mean, they can't run the ball. That's why they did it. That jet sweep to land, they usually get 8 to 10 yards minimum on it. And at this point, they're not going to trust Dalvin Cook, Rico Dowdle. Maybe just sneak it there. But it's just, Dallas time and time again, they just beat themselves.
Well, Yeah. No, go ahead. Go ahead. Yeah.
No, I think we should get into the offense because
Yeah.
those 3 touchdown passes, I think all 3 of them were perfectly
Awesome.
executed, and all 3 were just couldn't have been, when it comes to the receivers, just from London's catch, the way Mooney got on the wheel, and then McLeod. By the way, I did not know that was McLeod's first touchdown this year.
Yeah.
He's
I
done a
thought
lot
he had
for someone that's
scored.
not gone the end zone.
Yeah.
He's had some big catches, like huge moment catches on like 4th downs. But yeah, no, I think that first touchdown throw was my favorite one of the season from Kirk Cousins, because it was a high leverage situation, a 3rd down, and Mike Zimmer just brought the house, and it feels like Kirk Cousins just told him to take his blitz and to shove it, because Kirk Cousins that was a perfectly executed throw from a veteran quarterback, and a perfect design by Zach Robinson, because he had 3 Cowboys DBs just running into each other on that wheel route. Darnell Mooney caught it, and he literally just walked into the end zone. Like that was huge, especially psychologically after you lose Drake London. The Falcons were without London for most of the afternoon as well. That's something that absolutely needs to be mentioned. That was a big play, because it was like, all right, you know what, we can go downfield and we can still throw it all over you even without our best wide receiver.
Yeah. No, I mean, I have to correct you on that one. It was 4th down actually that he hit that.
Oh, it was 4th? Oh,
yes, it was 4-3.
Even better.
Yeah. No, it's even better. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah. It's like even more praise. They've scored 2 touchdowns on 4th down. I think one of the Kyle Pitts touchdowns was also in a similar situation where they were like kind of on the edge of the red zone, had 4th down, and just hit a big play. They're lethal on that down. Yeah.
No, Kev, that was last week, the first drive. It was 4th and 3. That's when Pitts ran the deep corner. He drew the hold.
Yep.
Yeah, so that was the 4th down. Look, this team is ultra aggressive. I can't, besides what's good, not to always mention the 2016 Falcons, but I can't remember a Falcons team this aggressive when it comes to going for it on 4th down.
Love it.
If they see a high leverage opportunity to go for it, they're going to not waste any time. And I don't know where they rank amongst the league leaders, but they got to be pretty high up there when it comes to 4th down conversion rate.
Oh yeah,
it also helps when you have the personnel for it. Like it helps when you have, a quarterback that is so good under pressure, like Kirk Cousins. That's a statistical fact. He's one of the league leaders in 4th down, in 4th quarter comebacks and game-winning drives. It helps when you have Bijan Robinson, again, hell of a game today. Offensive line held up really well outside of 2 holding penalties, which kind of derailed drives. But you know what? Those were sort of the only like crucial penalties that this team had. Dallas were the ones committing all the mistakes on the other end. Yeah. And it's just that this offense is so well built, and Zach Robinson has really sort of hit his stride at this point. Like he is calling some brilliant games, and I tip my cap to him, because it started off rough. First time play caller, you had people calling for his head after the Steelers game. Like, it's been 1 week. But Zach Robinson, hell of a job this season by him so far. A hell of a job to bounce back and to, just get better and better.
Yeah.
Kev, how do you feel about Zach Robinson at this point? Because I know you were very critical after the Saints game. Like, you were getting pretty fed up with the offense. Now
I feel way better. Like, I feel like I'm not saying like he watches the show and takes our advice. I think he's just a logical person that looks at what's on the field and sees the illogical things to do. And it's like, that should be obvious for an NFL coach, right? You like, from us as lay people, like, yes, we like follow football and we like to think that we like know a decent amount, but there's like a depth to football that we just don't get that these coaches do. But so many coaches don't just look at the game from like our angle of just like an informed viewer and make the obvious changes. And he does it. And it's like, that shouldn't be the big lauded like thing that it is, but it is, because so many coaches are just so rigid in their scheme, so rigid with how they do things. They don't really think outside the box. They've done things the same way their entire career. I think Zach Robinson is the opposite. I think look back to week 1. They scrapped that entire game plan. They never went back to the offense looking like that ever again. Ever. In the entire season, they've run like a handful of pistol plays. Like, and it's like, I think that's case in point. He's like, well, that didn't work. Let's like scrap that. Let's move on. Like, that was a cool idea, to protect Kirk Cousins, but that did not work. So we're not going to do that again. And I think throughout the whole season, like every week, it's little things. We asked for Kyle Pitts to get more involved. He's more involved. I know this week was a little bit disappointing, but I think the team kind of had to kind of had to react a little bit to the loss of Drake London and just use Charlie Werner more as a blocker. And I don't think that has anything to do with Pitts. It's just kind of like, I think that was their adjustment. But like,
they also put the lead most of the game.
Yeah. So it's like, I don't think they needed to press, the Kyle Pitts button as often in this one. We wanted them to run the ball inside more, and they're doing that. They're starting to do it well. And I think once Drew Dahlman comes back, I think Drew Dahlman could have played. Like, if this was a high leverage game, I think he would have played. I think they were like, we'll let him rest. Like, we don't really need it because Cowboys have.
Kevin, what do you mean? Micah Parsons was on his podcast, hasn't played in weeks, on one of the worst defenses in the NFL, talking about how this was the game of the season for the Falcons.
Yeah.
And how it was just the game of the week for Dallas. And apparently, the Falcons are such a small football team that we would consider, a matchup against the shitty 3-4 Cowboys as
3-5,
our game of the season, when, you know what, the Cowboys don't have that luster this year. Like, I'm sorry to break it to you, but maybe the past 3 years, they haven't had that luster in decades, bro. Like, the Cowboys are what? How many NFC teams have made the NFC title game since the Cowboys have last?
Almost all
of them, pretty much.
Yeah.
Like, this isn't the early 90s anymore. The Cowboys, they can be a brand all they want, but when they're not playing winning football in a particular season, like, they ain't shit.
Yeah. No, this Cowboys team is supremely disappointed. And that's kind of what I said, like, on the preview show, is like, this Cowboys team, like, has talent deficits, but like, the vibes are just so bad. Like, this team has the worst vibes in the NFL. Like, they have worse vibes than the Panthers. The Panthers just beat the Saints. Like, I mean,
their owner.
You might have taken that a little far. I don't know, but is it that bad?
I feel like the vibes are worse.
The Cowboys owner right now is threatening to fire radio hosts week in and week out. Yeah. Like, the vibes are a travesty over in Dallas. And, they have 3 wins, but you know what? Like, they shouldn't. Like, you look at the stats. This is worse than a 3-win football team this year.
Yeah. No, it's just they're poorly coached. They have bad discipline. Like, guys were dropping passes everywhere. Like, I mean, obviously, this team has major issues, and I don't think they're all personnel related. Obviously, they got ravaged at edge, and the Falcons know all about that. But like, the Falcons have a bad edge group, and they seem to make it work okay. The Falcons have an underperforming interior. It's nowhere near as bad as Dallas's interior. Like, this is a draft take, but like, I can't believe Mozzie Smith is like a bad run defender. Like, I don't know if anybody scouted Mozzie Smith coming out a couple years ago, but like, he was like arguably the best like run defending nose in college football. He goes to Dallas. He's awful. Like, I have no idea what happened there, but he's terrible. Like, I don't understand. So, that they obviously blew that pick, and this is a team that doesn't usually blow their first round pick. So
they're actually pretty good at drafting. That's the one thing you get credit, but they just did nothing in the offseason.
Do you guys remember that video? Like, they were contemplating between Mozzie Smith and Matthew Bergeron. Like, the Cowboys released that video.
That's right.
The day after that draft, and it was between them two, and they had like an actual debate in their war room going on, where they ended up like just barely settling on Mozzie Smith. And, the Falcons ended up being better for it because they ended up getting Bergeron. And yeah, I mean, Mozzie, I think I saw coming into last week or coming into this week, he was like last on PFF grade among all defensive linemen. Like, he's a catastrophe right now.
Yeah. But, all right. Well, we're going to keep going on this. I do want to get to the questions before I forget. Thank you guys for donating. Really appreciate you guys. We got Adrian Russ with the $2 saying, I could shed a tear. Did we just play 4 quarters of complete football on both sides of the ball? Yes, it was a little sweaty at the end, but we were in control the entire game. Are the Falcons playoff ready? Good question. Yeah. Alan, what do you think? Are the Falcons playoff ready at this point? We're at the halfway point of the season.
Yeah, I think they're playoff ready. Maybe not quite defensively, but they still have enough star power or big names, however you want to categorize it. I still think defensively they have enough there. Where it's forcing a turnover too. And I want to quickly mention, Greg Olson pointed this out. On 3rd and 4th down at one point, Dallas was like 3 of 18 in the game. Like,
they were 0-9, I think,
yards,
at one point.
But terrific on the layer downs. And I think that's been kind of a problem in previous games. But look, offense, they're at top 10 level. I don't know if they can get to top 5, but they're one of the most efficient units in the league. There's no denying that. And the offensive line's playing unison. And then just defensively with Bates and Terrell on the back end, Simmons, basically Justin Simmons comes back and things look a lot more organized.
They need him so bad. Oh my God, it was so bad without him. I'm so glad he was back.
Yeah, so just get stuff like that. But like I highlighted before, if Grady, Jarrett, Kate, they could be at the forefront. You get more for Onyemata. And look, at this point with Judon, you get what you get. But I will say that third down, if he doesn't deflect that ball, that could go for a huge game to Ferguson.
Yeah.
So Judon has these moments. He had last week against Rashad White, a wheel route where he somehow broke up the pass or caused the completion. That this week he gets a deflection on a screen. If you get those chip-ins here and there, and if McKay, now that he's playing more, I think McKay really is starting to show some flashes. And I don't think he'll ever put it all together, but as like a contributing piece, you could do a lot worse. So, yeah, I know. I do think this team's playoff ready, and they got the rhythm now, and they have their identity. And Zach Robinson, that second touchdown I really love in particular because you knew Dallas was really disorganized because they had to waste a timeout before the play was snapped. I think Trayvon Diggs was injured or he was complaining about something. And you knew they were going to blitz. It was Mike Zimmer was going to send the house and slide Cousins to the right a little bit, put together rub route concept, let Mooney run the wheel routes to his right, and just capitalize on this Cowboys secondary that was playing a lot more man to be expected. And they've just been disorganized all year and they exploited it. So that's when you know you have a really good offense. When you can exploit mismatches like that and turn into explosive plays, beautiful. And I think all three touchdowns kind of showed the Falcons using stuff to their advantage. Like the third touchdown with putting McLeod in motion and getting him in across the middle of the field. Just that's when you know, like this offense, okay, they're ready to go in full gear. And even without London, when you got to play left-handed a bit, they were still able to put up 28 points. They probably could have put up more if Bijan did blow the pass protection on Carl Lawson. And
that was.
I
don't know. Like
they easily could have scored 30.
Yeah, I'm guessing that was just a mental error because they purposefully had Lawson one-on-one with Pitts. Like I'm sure that they knew like, okay, like Pitts is going to need help with this. And Bijan just seemed like he went to the wrong gap. So I think that was just a mental error there. I know people were like, oh, how the hell could they have, Kyle Pitts one-on-one with Lawson? Because he was expecting it to be 2-on-1 with Bijan chipping. Or
he was in position. He was right there.
He just missed it. So that's unfortunate. But yeah, it is what it is.
Quick thing, sorry. I did not realize, but daylight savings means it gets very dark now, and I'm in the dark right now. So let me turn my light on. Sorry.
That's all good. It's all good. I'll read the next question while we're here. We got Alex Foster with the $5. Thanks, Alex. Appreciate you. It says, this game was so fun to be at. Let's enjoy the win, you beautiful people. Shout out to Alex for representing at the game today. The fans did a great job. Dallas had a number of false starts, a number of pre-stat penalties. I know some people were like, oh, Dallas going to take over the stadium. Well, I don't think they did. So great job, Falcons fans. Thank you, Alex, for showing up and showing out, as they say.
I will say it's been a hell of a sports weekend at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. I wasn't there. I wasn't there today, obviously, because, got to do the show. My duties are with the viewers. They're with the people more so than anything else. But, I was at the United game last night as well. So big shout out to them. They beat Lionel Messi, 94th minute winner. That they packed it out, 70,000. I also thought it would be a lot more Leo Messi and Inter Miami fans, but it was the vast majority Atlanta fans last night as well. I was over there in the supporters section. I ended up without my shirt at one point. I
like that. Yeah, great pick. Yeah.
Hey, great pick. But yeah, we great victory for Atlanta United. They stay alive in the playoff hunt. Great victory for the Falcons today. It was just, hell of a weekend, hell of a sports weekend all across Atlanta. Hopefully some great vibes for both those teams and for all of our teams moving forward. Hopefully some of them carry over to the Hawks as well. Yeah, we've kind of been struggling with some injuries lately. So, hopefully that they get healthy as well. But yeah, great win. And I'm very proud of the Atlanta fans for showing out and for doing so against two sort of national staple legacy teams. And right now that's what Inter Miami is in MLS. And that's obviously what the Cowboys are as well. So yeah, the Atlanta fans are buying in. The vibes in the city are absolutely great right now. The best they've been since 2016, I would say.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think we're seeing this team, like all it would take is this team being good, and people will fly to this team. And you remember in 2016, 2017 too, like even after they lost that Super Bowl, fans showed up in 2017 And yeah, no, thank you, Alex, for being one of them. We've been craving anything from this team basically for the past 6-7 seasons, and they just this is the time of year that they let us down. And this iteration of the Falcons with Raheem Morris, Kirk Cousins, this staff, these players, they're going the way that we had hoped it would go the last 3 years, right? Like, get to this midpoint of the season, you're kind of treading water, you're within a game of 500, and you just fall apart. You go and then you got to try to claw your way back, and you can never do it. This time, the Falcons are building a lead, 6-3. They've cleaned up in the division, 4-0. I mean, the vibes are immaculate right now. Like, it's not necessarily like dominant wins every week. It's not necessarily comfortable wins every week, but this team knows how to win close games. They've done a great job at it so far. So, if you're going to play close games, you need to be able to win close games. And so far, I mean, is there a better team in the NFL winning these close games right now? I'm not sure. I mean, this team just kind of knows how to get it done. It's not pretty usually, but if it's winning football, you're willing to overlook a lot. And then that's kind of the difference for this team. But we get to Sour Pickle's question here. Great name. Welcome back, Sour Pickle. The $5 says, what's going on with Troy Anderson? Why is he not playing yet? It's getting annoying. It is getting annoying. Why was he not on IR if they're not going to play him this long? The simple truth is they thought he could play earlier, and it hasn't happened. I do believe it's a pain management issue with Anderson, and I think he's close, but I think for the same reason as Drew Dahlman, they just don't feel like they need to rush him back. They're in a good position. They know Anderson is probably like a key piece to this defense, like being good enough to survive in the playoffs, and they don't want to aggravate whatever this is and set Anderson back, because IR was probably the right call in hindsight, but I think they thought he could realistically play within the next couple weeks. That wasn't true, but again, like, not placing him on IR hasn't hurt the team, right? Like, there's not really like they couldn't sign someone because Troy Anderson wasn't on IR. That's not really the case. Like, they didn't really need to put him on IR. Like, this team hasn't had to put a ton of guys on IR. Like, they're okay weathering the injuries. Like, I'm guessing if they were like in a very dicey situation where they had a lot of guys, where they had that were hurt, like, they may have had to make that decision. They didn't really have to, so it's not really hurting them that he's not on IR. I get it's frustrating that he's not out there. It's frustrating to me. I think he's close, and I think it's the right call to not force him out there early. I would say that also for Nate Landman, who, like, Nate Landman's thing just seems to be like he just can't really move right now. I don't know that it's like, that he's like hurt to like he can't play, but he's clearly not gotten his range of motion back, and that's problematic. But yeah, they need Anderson desperately, because right now, like, thank God Caden Ellis stepped up. We're going to talk about Caden Ellis in a second and give him his flowers, but like the linebacker group has been arguably their biggest weakness so far, and that that's a big part of why the run defense has been struggling. So we'll definitely get to that and praise for this offense. But all right, we got a couple more here. We got Jason Gaines with the $2. What's up, Jason? Thank you so much. Good win over the Cowboys today. Falcons are 6-3 for the first time since 2016. Glad we recovered that spinning onside kick this time, unlike back in 2020. I would like to acquire Ojulari from the Giants. I think he could be a potential Pro Bowler at edge. I do like Ojulari. I don't know if he's a Pro Bowler. If he is, and they trade like a day 3 pick if they trade a day 3 pick for him and becomes a Pro Bowler, then we give Terry Fontenot a statue. But yeah, I think Ojulari obviously benefits from that Giants defensive line. I also think it's probable that he's like he would be the best edge rusher on the Falcons. Like, both things can be true. I don't think he's going to just come in and like fix everything, but he would give them another like legit rusher that I think they kind of desperately need right now. So we'll see if they get that done.
I like Ojulari, but the Giants aren't drafting an edge rusher in the top 10 and train for Brian Burns if they rated Ojulari that highly.
Yeah, exactly. So
also, I do want to address the first part of the question, the onside kick. I do feel like some demons were exercised a little bit in regards to that kick, because we remember the Falcons tight end in 2020, Hayden Hurst, just sort of watched the ball spin the requisite 10 yards and let Dallas recover it. And that's a play that, even though the Falcons haven't yet, even though the Falcons weren't a playoff team that year, that's a play that sort of haunted us for a while. And that's a play that sort of made the team a laughingstock for a while, deservedly so. And yeah, shout out to Kyle Pitts. I know he didn't do much on offense today, but I'm sure a lot of Falcons fans were very nervous going into that onside kick and sort of a here we go again type scenario. And yeah, Kyle Pitts did what you're taught to do, and he did what Hayden Hurst didn't all those years ago, which is attack the football before it gets the requisite 10 yards, because they're not allowed to touch the ball, and you are going to have a free shot at it. And yeah, Kyle Pitts, he made good being on the hands team. Great job by him. Tip of the cap to Kyle Pitts for that play, because yeah, I'm sure there were some exhales across Atlanta after they saw the ball start to spin in a similar way as a few years ago, and after Kyle Pitts absolutely pounced on it.
Yeah, great play there. And I agree. Nice demon exercising. I definitely called attention to that prior to the onside kick. I was like, oh no, the last time this team had an onside kick attempt against the Cowboys, it did not go well. So I'm glad that they didn't botch it. But good play there by Pitts. Very heads up play. And again, you love how the announcing team calls it out. It's like, yeah, Pitts knows if they touch him, it's a penalty and the Falcons' ball. So like he goes charging at that ball as he should. Secures it, great play. So
the Falcons have been lucky to have Greg Olsen, I think, in back-to-back weeks. I think he's the best Fox has.
Yeah.
They're just forced to prop up Tom Brady in the biggest matchup of the week because they paid him all that money. Even though I don't think Tom Brady's really that good as an announcer, I think Greg Olsen is he's the best color commentator that's on Fox currently, and I think one of the best, in the game, period, right now.
Mm-hmm. Great stuff there. All right, we'll do one more here from Rise Up RXNs, which he has informed me is Rise Up Reactions. That's what RXNs means. So thank you for that clarification. I didn't know if that was like, is this like prescriptions or like, but it's Team Doc over here. But he says, overall good game, but I feel like we just can't put the nail in the coffin. Never felt like Cowboys were out of it. Less costly penalties was nice. Yeah, that's my only issue is like this team like should have blown the Cowboys completely out of the water. They had so many opportunities, I think, to just blow this team out, and they didn't do it. But they did enough, obviously, to get a semi-comfortable win, which that might be all we can like really hope for with this team. That's okay. I'm willing to accept that, but you would like this team to blow out a team that they really should. I mean, I think obviously they fumble that ball when they're in scoring position. They have a special teams error that puts them at the 1 instead of at the 15, where they just basically have to play like keep away from the Dallas defense and lose a drive to that. They had some misfires and stuff like that, and they really could have put, I think, multiple more touchdowns on this team, but at the end of the day, they still win by a touchdown. So it is what it is.
You knew there was going to be shortcomings without Drake London. You lose your number one receiver, the focal point of your passing game, someone who could just create so many mismatches. It wasn't always going to be that convincing. I think at the fourth quarter, you kind of just wish the defense could have got another stop or the offense could have got a couple more first downs. I do think Dallas got more blitzes than I think the coaching staff would have liked. Like I think Zimmer a couple of times really got Cousins uncomfortable. Even though I think Cousins threw 2 touchdowns against the blitz, it just seemed like there were some moments where the play was kind of crushed when Falcons didn't have much of an answer to begin with. So hopefully that doesn't become a lingering issue, because when you have a quarterback who's immobile like Cousins, you got to have quick answers against the blitz. And I do think, even though he played well, I think Bijan left a couple yards on the field when it came to just on dump offs. And hopefully he hasn't been called upon as a receiver this year that much. Hopefully now he can get more comfortable doing it, because as we know, he's such a playmaker.
Yeah. I think they were a little too reliant on that like swing pass out of the backfield today. They tried to run that play like 5 times, and like Dallas was on it after the first one. It's like you got to come up with like a different pass play that can't be the only one. And like the one big gain he had was just, I think he just optioned that. Like I don't know if that was an option route or if he just like, I think he just kind of was like, I'm gonna make myself open for Kirk here. Great play,
because I thought it was a broken play because Cousins for the rare times this year evaded a sack somehow some way, but it worked out nicely for them. But you notice they kind of got away from the screens. I think they only called 1 screen. So I'm curious if there's one thing Zach Robinson could really improve on, just having the quick answers against blitzing, because teams are going to ramp it up. Like they played the Broncos in 2 weeks, and did the Broncos blitz 44% of the time on dropbacks? Like they lead the league in blitzing. Vance Joseph loves the blitz. So that's going to be something to monitor. And I don't know if Dennis Allen's going to be the head coach this week, but he does like the blitz as well. So if there's anything you can watch for with this offense is how they handle teams blitzing more, because I think they're going to start doing it.
Yeah, Kirk has been pretty good at navigating it. If he doesn't get sacked, it's usually a big play for the Falcons. So we'll just hope that could continue. But yeah, they got to come up with some answers there. Like the screens were just not working for them. So I appreciate that they kind of like have gone away from that. They go to that screen pass. That screen pass has worked for them. But like that pass to Bijan, that sort of swing pass out of the backfield, like that has worked for them. It didn't work today, but you got to keep iterating. This is the NFL. Teams will figure out your tendencies and go after them. So got to have some options for those quick hitters. And obviously the slant to Drake London would probably be a great one, especially if you see the linebackers blitzing. But Drake London not in the game for most of this. So, we'll see if they have another option there, or maybe we'll see Casey Washington elevated if Drake has to miss any time. We know that the team kind of liked him as that sort of style of receiver. Kadarius Hodge, obviously, filling in admirably too. But, yeah.
That's why I don't think we should overreact to why they struggled at times against Blitz, just because they ain't London. But if people want to know why they didn't score more points, I think that probably played a reason for it. Because it's like there were a couple of third downs where they just stalled and they couldn't really push the ball downfield.
Yeah. Yep. So, yeah. No, I do think like last thing on the defense, like Caden Ellis had his kind of like reawakening game today, and the Falcons like desperately needed a linebacker to step up. I think we were all just like hoping for Troy Anderson to be the savior, but like he wasn't back yet. So it's like, okay, great. And like JD Bertrand's out with a concussion too, so it's like you can't really lean on him. You got Rashaan Evans like back there like as a depth piece, but no, they basically they really needed Caden Ellis to get back to form, and this was this was how he looked last year, like aggressive. Exactly. Playing closer to the line of scrimmage, not hesitating, not guessing. This was a great vintage Caden Ellis performance. If he can start playing like this again, you feel so much better about this linebacking core, especially.
Yeah. Too. He scored that up on the CD Lamb end around where he just torpedoed into the backfield and made initial contact like 2 yards back of the line of scrimmage, and then you had the entire like swarm of Atlanta Falcons jerseys just coming in right behind him to gang tackle CD Lamb for a loss. So that was a huge turning point in the game as well.
Yeah.
There was also a moment where he beat Zach Martin on a screen to stop Dowdle for like a 1 yard gain. So it's just those moments where in the box, just Caden Ellis just anticipating plays, whether it be on screens or on a particular run. Like that's what he was so good at last year, because there were like games where he would have like multiple TFLs or stops or no gains, and he was just everywhere. We just have not seen it this year, but today feel like one of those games where like 5-6 times he was flashing. He made a couple of really nice open field tackles on CD Lamb to force fourth downs as well. So it's just, look, we know he's not great coverage wise. You don't want him covering 15, 20 yards downfield, but within the underneath intermediate areas of the field, I think that's where he can make his presence felt. And of course, as a blitzer, he's going to cause havoc. So if they could just find that comfortability with Caden Ellis, because he could play, there's no denying it. It's just, you don't want him to be that 3-down linebacker where you're going to ask him to cover acres of space, because he's just not that player. If he could be that in the box guy, I think the second half of the year is going to be a big performances from week in and week out.
Yeah. No, I think it was. I think Ellis just looked way more comfortable today. It looked like he was confident in his reads and what he was doing, and it paid off with some big plays for him today. Yeah, offensively, I mean, we've been talking about it kind of on and off, but Kirk Cousins, just a great day from him. Just when he's protected, he's so lethal. Like, he will get through all of his progressions if he has time. He will look for every guy to come open. You love to see that. And Darnell Mooney, like the other guy that you just want to point out.
Oh, yeah, we haven't talked about him.
He could carry the load. Like, he can be your number one receiver if you need it. And there were a couple plays where he was like an inch or two away from more big plays. And it's like, that connection's really strong between him and Cousins. And Mooney looks like if Drake has to miss time, you can lean on Mooney as your top receiver for a little bit of time. So.
Yeah, he's been
I did not know. Oh, sorry.
I was going to say, Mooney's been a hell of a signing. Like, another big game today. You can tell how much Kirk Cousins really trusts him out there, especially down. He leads the league in 20-yard receptions this year.
Did you know
most
that?
of his catches? It's like most of his catches.
I didn't know that until they mentioned it on the broadcast. Like, my goodness.
13. I think he has 14 or 13 or 14 now. Yeah. So.
Like, I know he was
Wild.
stockpiling up. Like, there's definitely like Tampa. Maybe there's like 4 or 5 from Tampa, but you look at the Eagles game. I think he had a moment against the Chiefs where he beat Trent McDuffie. It's just in man coverage, they can't hang with him. And that one on 3rd and 4, he was running the comeback route. I think he made, I don't know if it was Donovan Wilson or someone missed, but he turned basically like a 6-yard catch into like a 25-yard play. Just knowing once again, like I think he doesn't get enough credit for what he can do after the catch. He is very elusive. So, and we know we can do as a downfield threat. So, man, I'm thrilled for him because people were skeptical of the signing. He just needed to get out of Chicago, and now he's in the perfect environment and he's thriving.
Yeah, you love to see it. You love to see that play. And you know, we'll see how severe Drake's injury is. We haven't gotten any confirmation on that yet. We probably won't until sometime next week. You know, there was confirmation that Grady Jarrett was walking around the locker room. He said he felt okay, like he felt solid. It was precautionary. So it doesn't seem like it's an Achilles tear. That doesn't mean it's not an injury that he'll have to have rehabbed or something like that. But it seems like for now, they feel like it's probably not a season-ending situation, which is great news. And we'll have to see, you know, what the update is on that next week as well. But you know, the Falcons do have options at receiver. You know, I think this receiver group got maligned in the offseason, but I think these guys have all stepped up. And, you know, Kadarius Hodge is a solid contributor. He's obviously not Drake London, but he can fill that role. And, you know, Casey Washington has 1 catch this year and looked great. So if we have to see Casey Washington, maybe that's, you know, not the end of the world either. So
I think it's a good sign that that he wasn't immediately ruled out. You know, he was out there. He did go to the tent. He tried to get on the stationary bike a little bit. Hip injury. I think the injury being thrown around. Obviously, we don't know the official diagnosis. Possible hip pointer, which, you know, obviously hurts like hell. But I don't think that seems like the type of injury that would land anyone on IR, depending on the severity. But yeah, I wouldn't be shocked if London's out next week. Against the Saints, though, I don't think we'll be seeing Chris Olave back because Derek Carr tried to murder him with a hospital ball this week, and it ended up being his 2nd concussion of the season. I think his 5th overall in his dating back to Ohio State. So, you know, fortunately, Chris Olave, they said that he was discharged from the hospital. You know, all was fine with him. He's going to go meet back with the team. But yeah, it's Rattler and Derek Carr are criminals, man. Like, they are absolutely like risking that man's career with some of their hospital balls this season.
yeah, speaking of bad vibes, you know, the Saints are probably the worst vibes in the NFL. I mean, what we had Michael Thomas go on like a 9-tweet rant about Derek Carr and that team, you know, from his couch, which, you know, I guess it's easy to do from your couch, but you know, that's never a good sign. And then
Chris Olave's brother,
yeah,
like
Chris Olave's brother's calling him out. I mean, and you know, Cam Jordan's just like, yeah, sorry, like we wanted better for you, New Orleans, like publicly on Twitter. And it's like, I think that team's about to pack it in. They're not going to pack it in before they play the Falcons, though. I can guarantee you that. They're going to give it their all. Yeah.
Now, that's what Micah Parsons' ignorant ass comment of this is the game of the season for them. That's true for the Saints. Yeah, for the Saints, this is the game of the season for them. Like, they would love nothing more than to derail Atlanta's season a little bit, because their season's absolutely going nowhere. That game's going to be in New Orleans. You know, it's going to be loud. It's going to be very, you know, energetic because this is their Super Bowl next week.
Yeah.
Falcons haven't swept the Saints since 2016. So,
well, we haven't done a lot of things since 2016, like have a 6-3 record. So maybe now's the time.
Now the bench is 2016. I wonder why.
Yeah.
Now is definitely the time. Like, I would love to sweep them. I'd love to take that, reestablish that 2-game lead in the division or in the all-time series, just so that we know for a fact that there's no chance of them, you know, passing us for at least a couple of years. And, you know, it's time to start. They tied us. They tied us last year and the year before, but now it's time to start, you know, building that back up in Atlanta's favor. We came one Younghoe Koo 58-yard kick away from, you know, losing to the Saints all time, which hasn't happened since it was 1-0 in 1967.
Yeah.
Facts on facts, Adnan. Very impressive.
Hey, that is one like thing that I have been very like meticulously focusing on for a very long time. If there's anything that the Falcons have had over New Orleans, it's that all-time season series, and it was almost taken from me.
Yeah. Wow.
Can I bring up what stat? We talked about Darnell Mooney before, but how about the Drake London one where 6 combined touchdowns his first 2 seasons, 6 touchdowns already this year.
Yeah, and Darnell Mooney also set a career high with his 5th touchdown catch today as well. He career high for touchdown receptions. He did have 5 total in the season, 4 receiving, 1 rushing a few years ago, but it's 2 career highs. What a good quarterback can do for you.
Yeah.
I'm starting to love speaking of receivers running the ball. Every time they give it to Ray McCloud on like little reverse or end around, he just runs so mad. Like, I don't know who pissed the ball off, but he just ready. Like, Isaiah Pacheco, he runs like he's stomping the ground. Ray McCloud's very similar. He's just mad, and it usually goes for good gains. So I do like the creativity of Ray McCloud because he does obviously have yak ability and he can run through contact. So they're just finding good ways to utilize him. And I don't know if you guys have been seeing this, but I'm not sure if you're reading like trade articles, but I've seen a couple of national writers talk about how the Falcons need to trade for a receiver, and I just don't get it.
No, not at all.
The Falcons are not utilizing draft capital on trading for a wide receiver right now.
No, it's the same people that probably thought this receiving core was shit. And like the Falcons have been proven right on that. Like people were like, Ray McCloud's a joke as a wide receiver 3. He's fine. He's fine. Darnell Mooney's not a wide receiver 2. You're right. He's a wide receiver 1.
Hey, he's a wide receiver 1 in fantasy. I'll tell you that right now.
They have 2. Yeah, they have 2 of them. Yeah, so it's the first time they've had 2 wide receiver 1s since I think the mid-teens as well. So wild stuff there. But we did just see Josh Kendall just published, the athletic writer for the Falcons, just published a story on Drake London's injury. Quote, nothing to be worried about per Drake London. He says, I'm straight. I just didn't want to be a detriment to the team trying to go out there and tough it out. I don't think there's any fall off. I know that Kadarius Hodge has got me. We're just going to take it day by day. So it sounds like it's a day-to-day injury for London, who was feeling uncomfortable. And the Falcons were confident in Kadarius Hodge to get it done. Kadarius Hodge did get it done.
Like they were against Tampa Bay. Yeah, and I mean, I feel like that play sort of helped that confidence and helped the team in really being like, all right, you know what, next man up, and our next man up is pretty good because Kadarius Hodge, like he had the moment of the season so far this year.
Yeah. Great stuff there. So, let me get to, do you guys have anything else you want to touch on this offense? I do want to say, like, I can't wait for, Ryan Newsel, like, has held the fort at center before I say anything else. Like, he has held the fort. The pass protection has not fallen off. He's done what we could hope for from him. But getting Drew Dahlman back, I think, is the key to this run game taking off because it's still very inconsistent. You still see that interior pressure get allowed. You still see guys coming into the backfield unblocked. Newsel's just not the run blocker Dahlman is. Dahlman's a great run blocker. He's like one of the best in the NFL. So I think that could be the like missing piece, especially if London has to miss a game or two. Like if Dahlman could come back, and he practiced fully before they made him inactive, which is odd, but I think they were like, we're not going to push it. That's fine. I think when Dahlman comes back and if he's ready to go, like that could be the sort of piece that they need to just unlock this rushing attack and really get this offense going to that like top 5 level. So I'm really hoping to see that. No slander intended toward Ryan Newsel. He's held the fort, but he's the backup for a reason. Drew Dahlman's one of the best run blocking centers in the NFL. And with how much more they're running inside, that could be critical for the way this run game plays out over the remainder of the season.
And Dahlman can get out in space too. He's really good at the second level, and they could get creative with him. Depending on how, just times if you want to pull the center, like how the Eagles will utilize Jason Kelsey in his prime years. So, I mean, Dahlman's a great athlete and he's a great communicator. So, yeah, it would be a big upgrade. Like that, if you want to find not a slight criticism, I did think the run game was a little disappointing. It just seemed like at times where McGarry was a step slow, and Lindstrom was too late on one play. Overshown. If there's one player on Dallas defense that shine, Overshown stood out a lot. He could move. So
one of my draft crushes. Yeah. One of my draft crushes. Yeah. So it's like
enough with Eric Kendricks. By the way, did you notice there's a lot of like a 2019 Vikings feel to this Cowboys team? You got Dalvin Cook, of course. You got Zimmer, Linval Joseph still getting snaps.
That man's 36 years old.
Jeez. And Kendricks is there. It's just like how many former Vikings and the 2019 Vikings are awesome, but it's 2024. Come on, folks.
It's been 5 years. Yeah, that's maybe not working.
It's like Jeff Ulbrich. Have you watched? I can understand if you have not watched the Jets. No one should be watching the Jets right now. But have you guys watched the Jets recently at all?
I mean, I think we've been subjected to them in prime time. So from that, I have watched them. Yeah.
How about you, Adon?
Yeah, I've seen some Jets. I've seen some Jets over the past few weeks. I mean, also they have been on prime time a lot, way more than they should be.
Exactly. Unfortunately, so you've seen Tack McKinley, Isaiah Oliver, and Kendall Sheffield, who I have not thought of in like 3 years, all on Jeff Ulbricht's defense. So you just have these former defensive coaches just holding on to talent they had years ago.
That's how you know. It's like maybe you wanted to blame Terry for that pick, but clearly, like, Ulbrich loves Kendall Sheffield. So maybe it wasn't entirely Fontenot on that one, but yeah, it's wild stuff. I mean, guys like their guys. I mean, I get it. They're like, yeah, I like this guy. He's good for my scheme. Whatever. So, but yeah, loved that Algier touchdown was just textbook power run. Like, got pushed from the offensive line. Algier just kept going. Like, love to see that.
McGarry just railroaded somebody.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm wondering. I'm hoping that when Dahlman gets back in here, we can see this running game really take over. Because it's been like good. It just hasn't been like as good as it should be, given how good the line is and how good the running backs are. Like, this team should be able to take over games when they get up like this. Like, they should be able to crush team spirits, and like they did on that one drive. But then they just they blew their their next 2 drives. Like, the Falcons just blew it on the next 2 drives, and part of that was Avery Williams, so I don't necessarily blame the offense for that.
Maybe if
you're starting inside your one, I mean, I get it, but yeah.
Maybe if they finally gave Bijan some inside runs. Like, the one time I saw them hand the ball to him inside, he got like 9 yards out of it. They just keep spamming that outside zone with Bijan, and I mean, hopefully maybe Drew Dahlman coming back will give them some confidence to run the ball inside some more, but yeah, I just like to see more of a diversity, because Bijan Robinson, I do think they did a good job overall of getting him into space. And I mean, yeah, the past few weeks, he's just been special. Like, he has made defenders miss. He's been an absolute nightmare for any defense in space. And yeah, I love what they're doing with Bijan at this point. Like, no offense to Tyler Algier, but that does not need to be like a 50-50 split. We saw it be a 50-50 split last year, and it was not like that wasn't working. I get that Algier has his role. He has his moments, and he's that sort of thunder to Bijan's lightning. But this backfield needs to be the vast majority of touches going to Bijan Robinson, and that they've been doing that the past few weeks to great success.
Yeah,
there was a weird sequence against Tampa Bay where Algier had like 5 carries in a row. I think it went for like maybe 18, 19 yards, and I was just like, oh, this isn't the way to run your offense. So there's moments like that. As effective he is, but I think Algier is perfect in that role. Just fourth quarter, just when the defense is worn down and you have to tackle someone like him, good luck, and especially in the red zone where he's going to pick up those chunk yards. So yeah, he has his role. But I would say that Carolina game was, even though Carolina's kind of like an expansion team at this point, but I do think that Carolina game really helped them finding that identity with Bijan, because I think ever since that Panthers game, Bijan's been on a roll. And even that Seattle game, even though it got out of hand, like, they were running the ball really well against Seattle. It's just, unfortunately, I think Bergeron went down, I think, with an injury, and then the game just got out of hand. So, and then look, Tampa with Vita Vea, they're going to have their moments, but I'm still very bullish on this run game. It's just, like you mentioned, Kevin, they do need Dahlman back to be fully set to take over games, because the run game should be doing more. You don't want to just be taking over games against Carolina Panthers. That's kind of like the requirement as an NFL team.
It's the bare minimum. But I think they have the pieces to be an elite run game. And I think with this passing game as good as it is, that could make this offense unstoppable if they can really unlock that. And I think Drew Dahlman might be the piece, along with, Joe. I want to recognize Joe Schmo's thoughts too, which is like they're running outside zone too much. And I agree. They need to be more like the Rams and really mix it up, because I don't think they run outside zone like that well. I think Bijan makes it work, but they're not like blocking up the outside zone. When they run inside, they usually do a great job, and like we have seen this team have a lot of success there. So I think they just need to incorporate more power, more inside zone. and just keep teams guessing. I think that's such a big part of success is just don't let teams key in on what you want to do. The perfect example would be the Bijan swing passes today, right? We ran it like 6 times. Like after the second time, they were all over it every single time, and it was a loss most plays. And it's like you can't just spam a play. Like I get that play has worked really well for this team in the past, and we saw the screen game work well for the Falcons early in the season. But like teams figured it out, they started to key in on that. You can't just keep going back to the same play. You got to figure out ways to mix it up, whatever that looks like. No, but I do trust Zach Robinson, like to try to figure this out, and hopefully they'll continue to iterate. He's the one guy that I trust to continue doing that. And I think by the end of this, like this is what we're hoping for. Like 2016, right? Kind of a messy start, but the team kind of starts rounding into form mid-season and then finishes really strong with the offense becoming the NFL's best offense over the final, 9 games and into the playoffs. I'm not saying this team is on that trajectory at this point, but like this offense is really good, and I think they can be really good. And when your offense is really good, like top 10, top 5 level, you can win in the playoffs. You can beat anybody. If your offense is having a good day, you can crush teams. So they got some tough tests coming up, but I do really like where this team is at this point. You love to double up the win-losses, right? 6-3. We'll see how the Bucs do on Monday night. If the Bucs lose that game, the Falcons will be effectively up 3 games on Tampa Bay with the tiebreaker. The Saints lost to the Panthers. You can kill the Saints next week. You can put the nail in the coffin of that team next week. And obviously Falcons got to go to Denver before their bye. That's gonna be a tough game. Denver's playing good football, but this team is in the driver's seat, no doubt about it. Anything else in the offense, guys, before I get to the rest of these listener questions here?
I think we can do some listener questions.
Yeah, let's do it. All right, we got Rise Up Reactions, RX Eds with the $5 says, if you ever want to talk injuries, I am a physician. Oh, so maybe the RX prescription thing actually it could be a thing. I'm a physician, happy to join y'all for discussions. RXN is short for reactions. Thank you, Rise Up. I'll keep that in mind, man. Appreciate your donations, appreciate your comments. And one more from Rise Up RXNs. The $5 says, still too many season tickets being sold to opponents, particularly in my section. Tired of being surrounded by the Aints and the boys, etc. I agree. We got to do something about that. These fans got to stop being cowards. Probably the answer is that the people that bought those PSLs are just investors, just trying to make money off their tickets, and they may not show up no matter what. But hopefully, we can get more Falcons fans buying those tickets as opposed to opponents.
I mean, the better the team does, the more Falcons fans we will get, because I think moving forward after this win, after these last couple of wins, there's going to be a lot of buy-in. Like if and when the team gets a home game in the playoffs, I don't have any doubts that it'll be 98 to 99% Falcons fans, no matter who they're facing.
Yeah. No, this team, these fans, you guys, we always show up in the playoffs. Like if this team is good, Falcons fans show up. Like this whole thought that Falcons fans are like not loyal or not, into it. Like that's a lie. This team, you guys know, we're tired of this team losing. Like it's been 7 years since this team made the playoffs. Like we're tired of this team losing. Like we're not going to show up to watch them get waxed. But if this team starts crushing it, if this team makes the playoffs, I have no doubt Falcons fans are going to fill that stadium.
It's just been a really bad combination of the team being bad plus the tickets being insanely expensive. It's been a really bad combination of that, because after the Bens came up and the PSLs cost an arm and a leg, what do you expect? Like what exactly do you expect? Nobody is going to come pay for those kinds of overpriced tickets to watch the product that we've had on the field the last 7 years.
Yeah. And we gotta, this team has to continue winning, right? No doubt about it. They still got a ways to go. They've earned my trust now officially. They beat the Saints next week. I'm all in. We're talking Super Bowl. You sweep the Saints and all bets are off. We're all in on this team. But it's look, I get it. Tickets are expensive for this team. The PSLs price out most casual fans. I appreciate that the concessions and stuff are cheap once you get in there. you can pay like a reasonable price for food and like beer, like what you would pay at a bar, and not like $17 for a Bud Light. Shout out to other stadiums I've been to. But it's still tough. Like, and like, who wants to go spend $300 to watch your team get their ass kicked? Nobody wants to spend that money. I'm not spending it. Some of these years, if I didn't have press pass, I wouldn't be going to these games. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't blame you guys at all. But it seems like they've turned a corner in a good way. And I'm excited for that for sure. And I know the fans will be there. This is not a weak fan base. This is a fan base that's tired of putting up with bullshit. You know, it's not that fans don't care or fans aren't interested. Fans are apathetic when you miss the playoffs for 6 straight years. And go 7-10 3 years in a row, Arthur Smith, and you know, I mean, don't get me started. You know, it's just this team
Go on,
this
Kev,
year.
man.
Yeah,
You're on one.
keep going. Yeah. No, I mean, it's just like I don't blame fans at all for not showing up to watch that crap. You know, to watch an uninspired offense that looks like it's stuck in the 1990s. Falcons had some good years in the 1990s actually, but you know, not with that offense. And you know, this team now, like they've turned the corner. They made the decision to invest in the quarterback position that Arthur Smith refused to do for 3 years. And what do you know? The most important position on the field matters. It's such a shock to me to see this play out in front of our very eyes. But look, this team ain't perfect. Far from it. The defense, I think, is very concerning still. They played a good game today. Props to them. But this offense is really cooking. And Kirk Cousins has not let up. Like last year, he was in the MVP conversation. For good reason. And I don't know that he's going to be in the conversation this year. We still got 9 games. I'm not ruling it out, but like there's a lot of good quarterbacks in the NFL this year. Jaden Daniels is playing phenomenal. I think Kirk Cousins is almost locked up comeback player of the year, honestly.
Yeah.
So he'll get a big award no matter what, probably. But offense is king, and this team is playing good offense right now, and they can do a lot if they can just put up points. So it's kind of where we are there.
Yeah, I just think the MVP talk, it's not happening, people. Look, Lamar, Josh Allen, Jaden Daniels, you're not surpassing
so hard.
Yeah.
I mean, if Kirk Cousins...
Let's enjoy what we're...
Yeah. I think maybe like Bijan could get in the OP, like the offensive player of the year conversation if the run game like really takes off over the final 9 and he gets to like 1,500 yards or something insane. But... You know, yeah, there's so many good quarterbacks in this league. It's not like Kirk Cousins could potentially be an all-pro, like a second-team all-pro or something. I think him making the Pro Bowl is probably a foregone conclusion at this point. But, you know, we'll see how it plays out. But no matter what, like whether he gets recognized or not, he's playing great football right now, even with his limitations. And that's the thing. Like every defense in the NFL knows Kirk Cousins can't move, and it doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter. Like he's just so lethal from the pocket. If you can't get to him, he's gonna dice you up. And that's exactly what if you can't move, you have to be able to execute when the protection's good. And props to Kirk Cousins.
I also think it's encouraging to start to run more under center play action. You saw on the drive where before London's touchdown, London made a sick catch. Cousins threw maybe a little too high, but nevertheless hit him in stride where they're under center and London was running like a deep over. So the more you see him utilize the play action, being under center, I think that indicates that he's getting more and more comfortable with his body.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's good to see he's starting to get more healthy. It kind of played out like I think we thought it would, like maybe a little bit slow to start with him recovering and learning a new scheme, and it's starting to come together. I mean, so far it's kind of working out so far. So happy to see that. We got Brave Dirty Hawk. Welcome back with the $5. Should the Falcons also look at a move on the interior? Calais Campbell reunion ? Yeah, I guess you missed our talk. I'm definitely in favor of a Calais Campbell reunion. I'd send a 2026 pick, you know, a 7th or a 6th or whatever it takes. Get Calais Campbell back in here. That man knows how to win. You know, get him on that defensive line. Maybe the secret was Calais Campbell just chews everyone's asses so much when he's here that like they just play better. So if that's the case, like get Calais in here and let's get this thing going. I love Calais Campbell. I would never be against adding Calais Campbell ever. He's an awesome person, probably the biggest human I've ever encountered. Like, but also he's so nice. It's like you don't even like think about it, but it's like, oh wow, he could probably eat me. But you know, he's just so nice. I don't have to worry about it. You know, it's very calming. But yeah, I love Calais. I would just the veteran leadership of him being here, I think would be worth like a day 3 pick. So we'll see. We got Ant-Man 614. What's up with the $5? Says great game, great sports weekend. Saints imploding against Carolina is just icing on the cake. Rise up. Yeah. You love to see it. You love to, like, look, you've always got the Saints losing. God, this is just like, I was like, I really went in on the Saints this offseason. I was like, man, that Saints team's going to be bad. Like, that offensive line is an atrocity. They didn't really make the moves they needed to make. They're continuing to bleed good players because of their cap management, which is bad. And they keep just like doubling down on the same old players. Like, and Cam Jordan, like, look, I don't personally like Cam Jordan because he's a menace to the Falcons. He's a great player, but this man has been slowing down every year, and they just keep re-upping him. Same thing with Kamara. Like, Kamara's a good player, but like, they just extended him. They just extended him again. And like, Kamara hasn't had like as much of an impact over the last 2 years, I would say. And they just extended him again. That team, I'm gonna pull it up because it shocks me, but like, the Saints team is a team that should have started rebuilding like 3 years ago, and they just keep going back and saying like, no, we're gonna be okay.
9-8, baby. Let's do it.
The Saints in 2025. All right, you guys ready for this? The Saints in 2025 are effectively 70.9 million over the cap for the 2025 season. Over.
Yeah. I do want to mention, speaking of trade deadline, teams are calling for Lattimore. So there is a chance Lattimore will not be on the team and will not play against the Falcons.
No, that doesn't matter. Mickey Loomis, he makes the salary cap disappear, guys. Like, come on. It doesn't matter that team has progressively just gotten worse and worse, and they can't even rebuild. It's Mickey Loomisnomics. Like, I've been watching that dumbass fan base just brag about Mickey Loomis for the past decade, talking about how he has come up with some secret sauce that no other front office knows about, apparently, and it's just him racking up credit card debt and then paying for it with more credit card debt the next year. Like, any dumbass can do that, but now they can't really get out of it, which is nice to see, and they are stuck with this essentially 4 to 5 win football team, and they're stuck paying Derek Carr to kill their wide receivers. So yeah, it's nice. It's nice seeing the Saints finally start to come crashing down because of the salary cap, the way we have the past couple seasons.
Yeah, and the honest truth is, even if they trade Marshawn Lattimore, he actually costs them money next year, even if they trade him. And it's not a lot. Well, if they trade Marshawn Lattimore, he's still going to be on their cap for over $30 million. Like, I shit you not. Like, he will be costing them they will be a net negative $250,000 on Marshawn Lattimore's $31 million cap hit next year. This is just gross mismanagement by the Saints. Like, I mean, look, Marshawn Lattimore's good, but like, this is the thing. Like, say it doesn't work out, right? Say it doesn't work out and you have to make some cuts. They don't have the option to cut anyone because they've backloaded all their contracts, added void years out the wazoo. Like, I mean, it's absurd, man.
They're a decrepit franchise. They might be the worst organization in the league right now, either them or Cleveland. Like, I don't think there's worse vibes. We were talking about vibes before the Cowboys. I think the Saints absolutely have worse vibes than the Cowboys.
They do now, for sure. Yeah. To listen to the Panthers, no doubt about it. It's just like, man, it's like they had so many opportunities to just like reset, and they just refuse. They refuse over and over. Like, who looked at that roster and thought that they could do a damn thing? Like, who thought Derek Carr was saving an aging and like overpriced Saints roster? Like, I just don't get it. It's like they just refuse over and over again to make the decision. Like, it's like they can't admit that they need to rebuild. The Falcons have rebuilt twice in the time the Saints have needed to rebuild. It's, I mean, it's wild. It's wild stuff. It's wild stuff. But yeah, we got George Costanzo. What's up, George? Says with the $2. Where did you guys have us record-wise at the beginning of the season? 6-3 is a great record. We may not match up well with Detroit, but without Hutchinson, that's not the same defense. We could make a deep run in the playoffs, might even win it all. Oh man, George is buying in.
Oh man.
Let me check. So I had the Falcons at 10-7 on the year. At this point, I had them. I actually had them with a losing record right now. I had them winning against the Steelers. I didn't work out. And then winning 3 straight: Saints, Bucks, Panthers, which actually happened. But I had them losing to the Eagles, Chiefs, Seahawks, Bucks, and Cowboys. And so they would have been, I think, 4-5 right now, according to me. Adnan took part in this exercise. He had them at 11-6 overall. And Adnan had them, let's see, I think he had them at 5-4 at this point. So Adnan definitely closer. Adnan had more faith in the early season. So no doubt about that. But I did have the Falcons, winning 5 of their last 6 to finish with the winning record. But yeah, Adnan, you were closer at this point for sure.
They've exceeded my expectations as well, and yeah, I mean, so far so good. I mean, you obviously the outside. The down the stretch schedule looks a lot more difficult now than what it did before the season started. The Vikings are better than what we expected. The Washington Commanders just look like world beaters right now. We'll see by the end of the season if they still do.
This could be a primetime game. This could be a primetime game, I think.
Yeah, it's So I mean, hopefully the Cliff Kingsbury second half curse, starts to kick in for, the Falcons' sake. But yeah, so I think I had them at 5-3 going into this week, but I had the Cowboys beating them.
Yeah, that's right.
But yeah, also like the Cowboys are a much, worse team than what we expected coming into the season as well. So, I mean, you just never know in the NFL, but yeah, so far so good. I think I had 6 wins or. Yeah, I had 7 wins going into the bye week.
That's right. You had 7-4. Yep.
Yeah, they could get it going into the bye week. So, hopefully they win these next 2 games. And if they go into the bye at 8-3, and that's not a very far-fetched scenario by any means, the Broncos look better than what we expected. I still think that's going to be a big trap game for sure. And then the Saints next week, like, no excuses. You have to go out there and beat the Saints next week. You're 8-3. Like, we're talking about competing for maybe a 2 seed. Maybe if the Lions stumble, possibly even having an outside shot of competing for that 1 seed, because Atlanta is going to have the tiebreaker when it comes to conference record. It looks like possibly that they've been absolutely eating this conference so far. So. There's a chance to sort of put the Bucks away here in the next couple of weeks and then start looking toward bigger and better things.
Yeah, no, you love to see it. I do want to shout out Eric Robinson, who has correctly predicted their record through 9 weeks. Eric has them at 6-3 right now. He didn't correctly predict exactly every game, but he was very close. He had them beating the Steelers and losing to the Eagles and Chiefs. So that's the one mistake there, as the Falcons beat the Eagles and lost to the Steelers. But he correctly predicted a 3-game winning streak: Saints, Bucks, Panthers. Then the loss to the Seahawks, and then a 2-game winning streak at Bucks, Cowboys to have us at 6-3. So Eric Robinson, so far, perfect with his record prediction. So if his record prediction holds, he predicts the Falcons will finish 11-6. So I've got 10-7, Adnan 11-6, Eric 11-6, and Dave had 10-7 as well. We'll see how that finishes out. Did you have a record prediction, Alan? I know you didn't do it on the show, but did you have one that you made before the season too?
I just had 10-7, but I did not pick game by game. But
okay,
yeah, I think 10-7 was a good record to go with.
Yeah, I think it's going to be 11-6 or 10-7. So I think we're all pretty close. But that obviously 11-6 would be a great finish for this team after the way things have gone lately. And I think it's not out of the realm of the reasonable, too. They'll have to get some wins against some of these teams that look better than expected, but definitely not unreasonable.
All right. If we do this exercise just very quickly, Broncos and Saints, I'm not looking past the Broncos at all.
No.
I feel like the Broncos may be a very stiff I was scared of the Broncos when we all thought they were going to suck. Like the week right before the bye, right after the Saints game, like in Denver at altitude, that's going to be a hell of a test. But the Chargers, they look fine, but coming off a bye week, and the Chargers having to go from West Coast to East Coast that week, that's that's manageable.
Yeah.
The Vikings in Minnesota, that could be a primetime game. Kirk Cousins is homecoming. Raiders, Giants, both should be wins. Carolina should be a win. And then you have, Washington and Minnesota in that. So, the schedule, it looks pretty good right now. Looks pretty good for the Falcons to maybe make a bit of a run at the moment. Maybe even an outside chance of 12 wins. I hope I don't regret saying that, a few weeks from now. I hope the team doesn't just derail and then, I just look dumb saying that, because the team has made me look dumb in the past for sure. But hopefully it's a new year, new Falcons.
Yeah. Hope so.
We were going talk about teams around the league. You guys check out who currently plays quarterback for the Las Vegas Raiders.
Desmond
Yeah,
Ridder.
Desmond Ridder.
Yeah.
Desmond Ridder, Monday night game.
No, that's getting flexed.
That's
There's
cursed.
no
That's
way.
cursed, yeah.
There's no way they are going.
Wait, they could flex on Monday night games, right?
They can now.
Yeah.
Oh.
I suspect
They
it will be flexed. I mean, sometimes they just don't. I mean, I don't know. Maybe they're like, oh, the Ridder Falcons thing. I mean, if the Falcons offense is good enough, they may be like, okay, maybe the Falcons
They don't
will just
care about the Ridder Falcons thing. Like, they're not going to put Desmond. ESPN is probably furiously beating down on Roger Goodell's door right now, just telling him, like, we are not putting Desmond Ridder on prime time.
Troy Aikman is notorious for just slandering bad quarterback play. They put Troy Aikman through so many Zach Wilson games. Leave the man alone.
Yeah.
Oh, I forgot they can flex on Monday night games. Oh,
They can.
man.
They can.
I just wanted for the theatrics, just seeing, because I could see Falcons and Raiders just that game over by the third quarter. I shouldn't say over by the third quarter. I don't know if the Falcons would be anyone by the third quarter at this rate, but I just think the Raiders, you were talking about bad vibes, I think the Raiders top 3 worst organizations right now.
Yeah.
I mean, hey, if you may lose the Raiders flex, but you could get one with the Vikings.
Commanders, like you said, yeah.
Because the Commanders, that one's completely up in the air. Like, there is no schedule for the last 2 weeks. The NFL leaves it open-ended. So they can flex. They can pick and choose the best matchups to play on prime. Like, maybe that game is played on a Saturday.
Yeah,
maybe
cool.
it's played on a Monday night, maybe on a Sunday night. So, we'll see. It's going to be one of those, like, holiday season games.
Yeah. No, I'm excited to see what they do. I do think, looking at the schedule, probably, I think week 14 at the Vikings is a flex candidate. And then week 17 at the Commanders is a flex candidate. I think the Falcons, if the Falcons keep winning, they're definitely in the conversation to getting flexed those weeks. Especially if they take the Falcons out of primetime on against the Raiders. I'm guessing they'll probably try to give them another game as a kickback, just to be fair. So we'll see if
they also want to put
the
the winning teams on, and the Falcons are entertaining right now. They delivered on their primetime games. I mean, the Thursday night game is one of the games of the year. The Chiefs game was a roller coaster, and Eagles game was wild. So I mean, they're providing entertainment. I will say, I don't know if you would want the Commanders game on prime time or at least in a night slot, maybe a Saturday afternoon slot, because outdoor game late December in Washington D.C. I don't know how Kirk's gonna adapt to that.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm interested to see how that goes, but yeah, I if the Falcons and Commanders stay on their current trajectory, that week 17 game's getting flexed to something. I don't know what it'll be, but yeah, because that could decide seeding in the end. At that point, given how this NFC South is shaken out, the Falcons may not even need to play starters. I think they'll obviously play against the Commanders that week because it could be critical for seeding. But the Panthers game might not matter, so the Falcons just might go all out against the Commanders and just not care about that week 18 game at all. That would be the ideal, right? It's go all out to beat the Panthers or the Commanders in week 17 and then play the back. Let Penix play a game. That would be perfect. Let Penix get a game in.
Cool. That would be cool, but I do think that seeding will be. I think seeding is going. It's going to come down to seeding down through that Panthers week as well, just because how often does it happen where a team is locked in, like outside of the 1 seed teams, where maybe the Chiefs will have that 1 seed locked up? How often is it that a team just knows what their seeding is going to be going into the last week? Like, not very often. So I think that could be a game where if you beat the Commanders, you possibly have to beat the Panthers to keep hold of the 2 seed or the 2 seed or the 3 seed. Obviously, the 2 seed isn't as valuable as it used to be before you get a bye week, but it's still pretty valuable. That means that you will get home field advantage up until the conference championship game if you make it that far. But yeah, it's I think it would be lovely to have a Michael Penix start Week 18, but I don't know. I feel like it would be. It's a very rare thing where what your seed is going into the last week. Like, remember 2016, the Falcons needed to beat the Saints Week 17 to solidify that 2 seed.
Yeah. No.
I remember Aaron and I having a half-hour argument about if that game's significant or not, because Aaron, the contrarian that he has always proven to be, was saying it's not a big deal. And it's like, are we really debating if a first-round bye is not a big deal or not? Like, come on.
It would be nice. Yeah. I'll take it. Yeah.
I feel like I know opinions are opinions. I think that one is just literally the wrong opinion. Like, of course, getting a bye week is way more crucial than resting starters in the last week of the season.
Yeah.
And now that there's a 7 seed, it's more congested too. So
yeah, it's not only a bye week, but it's also home fields. Like, until the conference championship. Like, if the Falcons don't get that 2 seed, everything would have been different in those playoffs.
Yeah, that's true. It can make a big difference for sure. All right, let me get through these final questions. Thank you guys so much for donating. We got George Costanza with the $2 say, but Kevin, why did we pay Cousins all that money when we could have just traded for Justin Fields for a 6th-round pick? Says every Homer fan ever. Yeah, I mean, look, the conversation around Justin Fields was like, it's going to cost you a lot less. He's probably not going to be as good of a quarterback, but maybe you can make it work. Versus, like, is Cousins going to be healthy enough to keep the offense alive, so-and-so? And, is he going to be worth the contract? And I think, obviously, the answer now is, yeah, he's worth the contract. He's going to be able to keep the offense at a high level, And so it was clearly the right call. But, yeah, I mean, you weren't going to get this kind of play out of Justin Fields. And maybe that means Michael Penix would be playing at this point. I don't know. But you certainly don't like to think about this offense without Kirk Cousins, because I think that's kind of a critical part of how this works. No doubt about it. Happy to have Cousins here, no doubt about it. All right, we got Furball with the $2. Thank you. Thoughts on the defense except the last drive? This was one of the better defensive games of the year. I think they were still not playing the run well, but I think they were okay letting the Cowboys run the ball. And we're just more focusing on stopping the passing game, which, the Cowboys are one of the most pass-heavy teams in the NFL. I think they did a good job. Obviously that last drive was frustrating, but we're accepting that per your question. So if you take that last drive out, they had a great game. No doubt about it. They played well. I mean, you would have liked them to come up with a turnover because they had opportunities for like 5 probably. And they just didn't get any. But again, this week shows like maybe they don't need to get turnovers constantly to win games. This week they certainly found success without creating turnovers. So good for them.
Think about it. They had 4 turnover on downs. So
yeah. No, that
should count. I feel like that should count as a turnover. I know it doesn't, but I feel like it should.
Yeah. I mean, I agree that, they were dominant on 4th down. You love to see that. And the fake punt too. Hilarious. I can't believe they ran that. That was just embarrassing. It just really showed you the headspace of this team. Like, man, if we don't win this game, we're going to get fired. That might be the case for Dallas. So we'll see. Then we got one more. Sour Pickle with the $5. Thank you, Sour Pickle, for the final question. He says, maybe when Dahlman is back in, Bijan can get that go-off game. I'd love to see Bijan have a big game where he goes bonkers. Yeah, I mean, I think, like, he was looking like he was headed that way, against the Seahawks. And that just, obviously the miscues on offense doomed that one. But, yeah, I think Bijan's like an inch away from like a 200-yard performance or something like that. Like, he's really close, and he's been having a great season. This is what we expected from Bijan. He's such a core part of the offense. He's like one of their best yards after catch players. So good. He just looks so much more comfortable and like patient running the ball, and you love to see that. So, all right, we got Rise Up RXNs with one before the buzzer with the $2 says, I do hate resting starters, seems to fail often. Yeah, I mean, the Falcons definitely played it conservative on that drive. And they did give up a touchdown, but ultimately it was okay. This is one of those games you can kind of afford to do it, right? It's like not that big of a deal, and you feel confident in your ability to close out the game if like something does happen. But yeah, this is, I get them wanting to close out, like to not push it with Terrell or these other guys, given that you got a game with the Saints on tap and you're already lost some big contributors in this game. So, I also don't like watching the defense without starters. It's not good enough really to win games without the starters. So, yeah. Well, any final takes, Alan, before we head off tonight? He's at Alan Strk, folks, on Twitter. Make sure to give him a follow.
Yeah, I think we highlight everything, man. This is a great game to break down. I think we gave a real comprehensive review. We mocked the Saints. We looked at the schedule. I think it's a real good all-around podcast. And next week's going to be fun.
Yeah, no, I'm looking forward to it. Hate week. The Falcons can put the nail in the Saints' coffin this week. I would love to see him do it. No doubt about it.
How often, it hasn't happened very often the past few years, where you go into a Saints matchup where the Falcons are just on this huge upswing and the Saints are completely on the downswing. It feels like over the past 8 years, it's just been the other way around, where, after that 2016 game, it's been or after that 2016 sweep, it's just felt like the Saints have just gone into that matchup as the better team, the better team from a macro perspective, almost every single time. It's been a really nice change of pace for once.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think it will be great. I think it's a nice spot for this Falcons team to hopefully just dominate this division. They get this win against the Saints. There's no chance at that point that they will lose the divisional tiebreaker either. They'll have swept 2 out of 3 teams and have an opportunity to sweep the other one. They'll just put the stranglehold on this division going into week 11 at that point. And it's that's great. You love to see that. So I'm hoping that we crush it and get that big win and end the Saints season in their home stadium. You just love to see it. Yeah. Guys, thank you so much for tuning in and joining us today on tonight's Week 9 post-game show. I'm Kevin Knight at Falcon Kevin. We had Adnan Ikic at Say Which Way, and also Alan Strk at Alan Strk. Thanks for joining us. Please like and subscribe if you haven't done so already. We really appreciate that. It helps the show out. What also helps us out is leaving that 5-star review on your podcast platform of choice. Those help the podcast get more reach the more reviews we have. Thanks to everyone who's already reviewed. If you want to support the show financially, you can do so by joining our Patreon. It's patreon.com/Falcoholic Or if you're a YouTube enjoyer, if you're here right now on the live show, maybe a YouTube enjoyer, you can join the channel memberships to get more of those video-focused perks. But thank you guys so much for hanging out with us. We will be back on Tuesday with Tuesday Takes with Trayshawn, and we'll be getting into Week 10 Hate Week rematch with the New Orleans Saints, with the Falcons can absolutely put the stranglehold on this division, build a dominant lead over everyone, basically, with this Week 10 win. Let's hope they can get it done, guys, but we'll talk to you next week.